Hi guys, welcome to Salon Help. For those that don't know me, my name's Hinder. Now, the information that I want to share with you today is really for UK businesses, although I've got some USA clients and I think most of this is applicable to you. The thing that we're going to be talking about is employing someone directly. We all know about that. It's kind of a traditional way that we do business. And then rent a chair or rent a space. And that means that we are leasing a space or leasing a chair, and these people are self-employed. Now, most of the information that I'm going to share with you comes from the NHF contracts. There's about 3 or 4 of them if you remember, but also the HMRC or the government website, and on top of that, my experience this year. Now this year I've dealt with 4 salons directly, and they've all had tribunal related problems. Now they didn't have the problems, so should I say they had the problems before I came along, and I'm helping them specifically with this issue. I'm not representing them in court or anything, but we've got to make sure that going forward these businesses aren't having these problems. So it got me thinking, why don't I do a short video so that you guys can avoid the same kind of problems. So the problems that I've been seeing, the owners on the forums are showing a real lack of understanding of what employment means and what rent a chair or self-employed means. There's a real big crossover. It's massive for our industry this year, or it's been massive for the last few years, but the edges are getting more blurred all the time. I'm getting more calls or inbox messages from people thinking that maybe I'm a legal helpline. I'm not. I can't help you with specific legal cases, but I can talk you through what you should be doing in your salon. My interaction with the HMRC this year is absolutely critical to what I'm sharing with you today, because we've got contracts from the NHF, we've got contracts from all kinds of businesses out there, Small Business Bureau, all sorts of companies. The trouble is, when we get down to the nitty-gritty, when we get down to discussing with HMRC, they don't always accept what's in the contracts. So what I'm actually telling you today is the simplest version of what HMRC are like. When you're dealing with them, when they come in, when they contact you, or you end up in a tribunal situation, they aren't open to a lot of interpretation. So the key to it is that we got salon owners treating self-employed people like their own staff, and that is the biggest issue that we've got. So how can you identify an employee? This is the traditional people that work throughout our industry. So the first thing is, someone who's employed, someone who works for you directly, should have a contract of employment. In fact, they should have one within the first 8 weeks. Otherwise, you'll actually have a legal issue on your hands. But you must have a contract of employment. Now, I would always say use a reputable company to get your contracts. Just taking one off the internet or getting one off your friend and typing it out is an issue, because it means those contracts are probably already out of date, and it means if you have to use them to protect your business, you're not going to have any legal backing for them. You know if you've got an employee, if you're paying their national insurance or collecting their PAYE, and if you are paying your own national insurance, the employer's national insurance, you know, like an employment tax. If you pay them an hourly rate, or if you pay them at all directly and you're collecting these taxes, these people are employees of yours. And if you're providing them with ongoing training, so they might come to your training night, you might be sending them to training courses around the UK, these people are your employees. The work hours that you decide. So if you want them to come in at 9 o'clock in the morning, you want them to go home at 5, or anything you want, if you can decide that, these people are employees of yours. They take holidays when you want, or at least when you agree they can have them. Okay, so these are just people who are employees. I'm just trying to identify for you the kind of person you've got in your shop. I guess you already know what an employee is. They take instructions from you. So if you want them to come in at 2 o'clock, they do that. If you want them to clean the salon, they do that. If you want them to phone other customers, they do that. If you want them to do specific clients, they do that. They take instructions directly from you. And they charge prices that you want. They charge the salon price, or they charge the salon price that's right for them. But ultimately, it's you who's deciding how much they charge. And they deliver services to the standard that you want. If you want them to do a haircut in a certain way, they do that. If you want them to do a set of nails in a certain way, they do that. And they sell products that you choose, they sell products that you supply, and they sell products in a way that you want. You know, we all know about products, and I don't want to get into that today. Everyone knows my super passion is retailing, but they sell products in a way that you want that's crucial to your business. So, the benefit of employment. Now, the benefit of employment is control. So, with employees, you can do pretty much whatever you want within employment law. You control these people and you can build your business. In fact, that's such a big issue for me as a business coach these days. I'm finding more and more difficult to help salons that have self-employed workers. Because when I sit down with you as a salon owner, what's happening is I'm giving you examples, I'm giving you tools, I'm giving you training, but you can't carry out those functions because you don't have control over your staff. So I'm more and more in a position where I can only actually help salons that have got people who are genuinely employed by them. It means you can develop your brand. You know, with people who work for you, you can develop your brand, and with self-employed workers, that's much more challenging. So businesses already know about employees. It's a very traditional method, and if you really need to, if you don't know what an employee is already, you know, inbox me. I'll tell you what it is. But you know, if you're paying their taxes, you've got control over them, and you're paying them weekly or paying them monthly. You're paying them an hourly rate normally. You could be paying them commission. Then these people are employees of yours. Now, the self-employed workers, I call them that self-employed workers because one of my pet hates is I see it on the forums, and even when I meet you guys for the first time in a consultation, and you call them your workers. Well, they're not your workers. These guys are self-employed. They work for themselves. So the reasons that you have them is because you as an owner probably think that you're going to get a reduction in costs and you're going to have a lot less staffing issues. So you think you're going to have a lot less hassle when it comes to them being sick. You think there's going to be a lot less cost or a lot less hassle when they're on holiday. And that's partly true. So the things that you think you benefit from. So you've got no employer national insurance, which financially is great. That's around 13.8%, or certainly it was up until the last tax period. You don't have to pay them any holiday pay. You don't have to pay them any sick pay if they go sick. There's no pension contributions, no equipment. You don't have to provide them with anything at all, possibly the chair and the mirror that they sat in, but you don't have to provide them with, you know, the table. You don't have to provide them, with their clippers or their scissors or, you know, any other equipment, the towels for the spa. You don't have to provide them with anything other than the basics. So that's a big saving for you. You don't have to provide them with uniform. Okay, so you're going to save a lot of money there. And when it's quiet, and I think this is the crux from the people that I talk to, the crux is you want to save money when it's quiet. You know, it's quite hard on small businesses to be able to pay people when there's no customers in. So, you know, there are some savings, and financially, on the face of it, it's not a bad thing to be doing. And I put a big smiley face, because those are the positives of having self-employed workers in your business. So people think that there's a lot less hassle with self-employed workers, with rent-a-chair people, rent a space. You know, you might be renting a room, and most of these rules apply to whether it's a chair or a table or a section or an area or even a room at the back of the salon. But when they go sick, you've still got the same issues. You think they go off sick, you don't have to pay them, that's great. But when they go off sick, you still end up with the same issues of having to cover them. People don't realize, or certainly customers don't initially realize, that they work for themselves and it's nothing to do with you. you still end up running around the salon trying to, get them covered, trying to squeeze them in, trying to fit an extra set of nails in, or whatever you've got to do. So you don't really get a huge benefit when they're sick from them being self-employed, apart from you not having to pay them. Now, the things that you can't do, you cannot do this in your salon. And these are the things that are a problem when I'm working with you. Okay, when I come out your salon, these are the things I see, and the forums drive me absolutely bonkers when I see this stuff. And these are just examples, you cannot control their prices. If someone's in your salon and they've got a room out the back, they can charge whatever they want. If you're in a barber shop and you have a barber, he has his own chair, or she has their own place, their own area, then they can charge whatever they want. If you're a £10 cut hair salon and they want to charge £20, they can charge £20. They have not got to stay in line with the price ethos of your business. You cannot make them wear a uniform. So if you're trying to build a brand, if you want everyone to turn up in, the same color t-shirt or all in the same tunics, of course you can ask them, but you cannot get them to comply with what you want. So if they want to turn up in their jeans, if they want to turn up in a string vest, they can wear whatever they want in their own workplace. So you can't decide what products they use. So they're going to be doing their own haircuts, or they're going to be doing their own spray tanning, or they're going to be doing whatever service. You can't decide what products they use. Now that could be a problem, and it's a problem because we know the products produce higher quality styles, or higher quality spray tans, or higher quality nails. But you can't decide what products these people are using. So if you are deciding any of these things, you are actually on the verge of these people being employed by you and not self-employed. So the more control you have, the more problems you have with regards to legislation, okay? So you can't tell them what services to provide. Now your contracts will have a basic outline. If you're a nail technician, then it's going to be nail and beauty. If you're a barber, then it's going to be haircutting and shaving. But if they want to introduce facial packs, if they want to introduce ear waxing, nose waxing, if they want to introduce anything they want into their area, okay, they can't start selling pizzas, but they can do anything they want within the remit of their industry. So if that doesn't fit into what you want, tough. You cannot control what they're doing in their own business. You can't tell them which clients they should do. So if someone comes in and they want, if it is a ladies' hair salon, for an example, and a lady comes in and she wants a color, you can't decide as the owner to tell the self-employed worker, that's one of yours, you need to do that. And you can't tell them how to do it, you can't tell them what products to use, you can't tell them anything, okay? So same with barbershops, especially if they're walk-in barbershops, you can't say, okay, John, this one's for you, this one's for you, this one's next. If they want to sit on that chair and let the queue build up, they can sit on that chair and let the queue build up, okay? There's nothing you can do to control these people. You can't control when they have holidays. If they want to take December off, they don't want to be there, they don't have to be there. You can't put this stuff in their contracts, in their agreements, in the leases. Because I tell you now, from the 4 people I've dealt with this year, directly with HMRC, you are not going to have an easy time of it. HMRC will not accept you trying to circumnavigate these rules. You can't tell them how to behave. Now, you can when it comes to health and safety, so you could say to them, look, I do expect you, and it's in their contract or lease anyway, that they've got to clean their equipment or clean their area, stay hygienic. Things that are bound by regulation or laws, you can enforce them. That's fair enough. But you can't tell them what they want to do. So I've noted down with their mobile phone. I see people on the forums have a real complaint about people on mobile phones, staff in barbershops and hairdressers. Well, if I'm a self-employed worker in your shop and I want to sit in my own barber's chair and I want to spend all afternoon doing promotions or texting my friends whilst the rest of the salon is going mental and is in chaos, I can do that. It's my time, it's my business, it's my chair, it's my phone. I can do whatever I want. God, it looks terrible, doesn't it? It looks terrible for the brand, it looks terrible for your salon. And what do the other customers think? Well, it's because they don't understand that this person is a self-employed worker. Now, part of the reason is because what we try and do, salon owners if you like, is we want to pretend that these people are our staff. They're staff on a different basis, but they're not our staff. These people are self-employed workers. So they run their own business. These self-employed workers, chair renters, room renters, however you want to call them. These people run their own business. They don't run your business. If they were next door in a separate building, you wouldn't be popping around there and saying, don't forget to tidy up, don't forget to do this, lady. Okay? Even if you was renting them the whole building. So you've got to focus on your business and they focus on their business. Now they should have their own business accounts. In fact, they must have their own business accounts. You can't go mixing up all the finances between your business and their business, and it's part of their legislation. So if you are a self-employed worker, if you are a rent-a-chair person today, then this is something that you should be doing. You have to have your own accounts. Okay? You have to keep your own client records. You can't mix them up with the salons. And even though we're not talking about GDPR today, the data protection, part of an extension to the Data Protection Act, you have to keep your own records. These people sat in your chair are your clients. They don't belong to the salon and they don't belong to the salon owner. They belong to you, your business, your records, your accounts, your clients. You've got to manage the self-employed workers, your own health and safety. So you're responsible for doing your own, whatever it is, pat testing, whether it is hygiene, changing your blades. You're responsible for your own health and safety, not the salon owner, the person who is self-employed in the salon. Now, this is a big one. I have heard salons who try and encapsulate the self-employed workers under their own insurance. Well, first of all, if you're trying to save money by having these guys, then this is one way that you could be saving money. You don't need to insure the self-employed workers in your salon. But the self-employed workers need to have really, really, really good insurance. So they need public liability insurance or professional neglect insurance. Because when something goes wrong, when a set of nails goes wrong, when microblading goes wrong, that insurance has to kick in for that self-employed worker. You can't go picking up the pieces as a salon owner and trying to cover someone who doesn't work for you under your insurance. If the insurance covers it, gosh, you'll be very, very lucky. But more often than not, the insurance company will quickly identify that they don't work for you and therefore don't have to cover you. So you're looking at, you need product liability. So this is the self-employed worker. So any products you're using, if they're causing a reaction, you have to be covered for that. And you need to have your own almost contents insurance. So everything that's in that salon that's yours, that you personally own. So things like your clippers or things like your nail equipment or your spray tents or whatever you're going to be using, you need to have them insured against theft, against fire. So you've got public liability and then you've got all your products covered, okay? So make sure you've got a really, really good policy. Now, that policy should be up on the wall next to your work area. Just like salon owners, and I hope the salon owners have already got their public liability up in the salon. It's a legal requirement, and usually trading standards will call in from time to time and check it's up on the wall. So you've got to have your insurance as a salon up on the wall, and so do these guys. So if you're a self-employed worker and you've got a mirror or a room, then please get it outside or next to the mirror to show that you are insured in that salon. Now, the bit that I never, ever see in salons, almost never, the self-employed worker, the rent-a-chair, the rent-a-room person, has to have a noticer on the wall near their work area. Now, the work area should be very, very well defined. It's normally for a hairdresser, something like 2 meters by 2 meters or 3 meters by 3 meters. If it's a room, then it's a well-designated room. You know, it's a room 4 meters by 4 meters at the back of the salon, etc. You've got to have a sign up right by your mirror, right by your station, or whatever it is, whatever area you work in, with your personal name on. If you've got a company name as well, the name of the company, so Carl Hinder, Salon Help should be on there. And then the address that you can be contacted at. Now that's normally your registered business address or the registered address that you've given the council, not the salon address. So the sign has to have your name, your business name, your address on it. And the reason for that is so any complaints are directed directly to you. So if a customer has a bad haircut, bad set of nails, bad microblading, whatever it is, they can see the information for that business, they can see the insurance company as well, and they are directed to that person in the chair. It's not the salon owner's responsibility to pick up the pieces, start giving discounts, giving out gift vouchers, apologizing, going around the house with a bunch of flowers. It's down to the person with the document on the wall. Okay, I rarely see them on the walls, and I'd love to go into more salons and see them up there. It's a legal requirement. HMRC are going to jump all over you, guarantee in the next few years, guys. So little things like, like I said, it's required by the Companies Act, so it's a legal requirement you have that sign. So little things like stationery. You should have, if you're going to have business cards, you have your own business cards, you have your own leaflets, you have your own posters, and they must depict you as your business. What we are good at, or bad at, in my opinion, is we try to merge these self-employed people. And sometimes the self-employed people want to merge into it because the benefit for them is great. If I can get into a well-branded salon and look like a member of staff, well, I'm going to piggyback onto the fantastic brand of this business, which, is human nature, and that's fair enough. But in a legal situation, we can't be doing that. You've got to have a very clearly defined business. So your business cards, so if you're working in Salon Help Hair Salon, you should be, and you're a different name, you can't be using my brand. And I think the salon owners who have had bad experiences with self-employed workers will understand the reason why they want to keep their brands separately, because there's a lot of damage can be done by self-employed workers when they move on or if they do really bad work for you. So, like I said, they can't pretend that they're working for you. Now, when we do have a complaint, I've already covered this slightly, the self-employed worker must deal with their own complaints. So if they're on a day off, then you have to tell the client who's complaining, look, come back tomorrow, Mary's in, John's in, 2 o'clock tomorrow, come back and complain to him about the bad haircut, about the bad set of nails, about whatever it is, the massage you wasn't happy with. It's their business, please come back. If you've done it properly, you can walk over to the mirror and you can say, look, this is John's business, here's his insurance, please come in tomorrow and see him. And we touched on this as well. They are responsible for their own work areas. It's in their lease, it should be in their contract. They must be responsible for their own areas. They've got to keep their own areas clean, tidy, that sort of thing. Now, most important for employed workers, but also for self-employed workers. The most important thing you can do in your business when it comes to staffing of any type is have a contract. A proper, legal, written, up-to-date, don't write up-to-date, up-to-date contract. Now, they've got to be signed by both parties, and whilst I said you've got 8 weeks by law in the UK, I would be doing it before they start. You want these guys to be legally bound by your rules, then you need to make sure you've got a signed contract. Now, just going on to the coaching side a little bit, the guys I'm working with will know that I'm very, very big on doing fantastic inductions. So the first day I would be spending with my new workers going through their part of the induction process, which is their contract, getting it signed, and the handbook. And that means going through every single line so that they understand what's expected of them in terms of terms and conditions. I'm not just throwing it at them and ask them to, sign it and come back in 2 weeks' time. Okay, so you've got to have this bit of paper. But I can tell you now, having a contract for a self-employed worker is only half the story. It's there to protect you as a salon owner as much as it is to protect the self-employed worker. But if you treat them like a member of staff and HMRC during a tribunal decide that they are a employed worker, this won't stand for anything. But you have to start off properly, and you have to start with a proper signed lease or contract. So the things that you've got to agree when you've got these self-employed workers. You've got to agree the appointment system. Now don't forget, the more you get involved, the more likely they are to be an employed worker in the eyes of the law. So sometimes, you know, salons out there, big salons have got software, and they take appointments, and the receptionist takes the appointments, and that's not really a big problem. The salons can do that for the self-employed workers. So if someone phones, they can write it in a book for them. What they can't do is decide, as people are phoning, whether or not they're for the self-employed worker or if they're for someone else in the salon. They can't decide that automatically. So if you're rationing customers, then you might be on a bit of a sticky wicket. How to use receptionists or juniors, that's got to be in the agreement. You know, sometimes salons allow the juniors to sweep up after the self-employed workers or help them with teas and coffees and that sort of stuff, and that's all fine, just needs to be in the agreement. Access to refreshments, so what's the self-employed worker got? Can he go to the staff room, or she, can they use the tea, coffee facilities, all that sort of stuff? I know these are small things, but they're important that you get them right at the beginning, and they're in that agreement. Now, the NHF agreement, by the way, guys, I don't work for the NHF. You will see me all the time promoting them, particularly for the legal side of things, contracts and leases. It's because I have a history with the NHF, but because I've always known them to be absolutely fantastic in supporting your business. Who does the laundry? You know, if you've got 20 towels coming out every day, who's responsible for that? And don't forget, when you're deciding on a cost, all this has got to go into it. Access to the premises. Now, I have been involved with a case recently that the tribunal has decided that technically the self-employed worker should have access to the premises any time that they want. So not even just in opening hours. Now, I would still say that in the agreement, because you're agreeing it when you sat down, if you just put in there between the normal opening hours, that is normally sufficient for the self-employed worker to operate properly. But if you extend that and you end up in a tribunal, they could have a position where they should have access whenever they want. So if they want to come in on a Sunday, they want to work till 10 o'clock at night, you might end up having to make security arrangements for them to be able to do that. The times and the days of the weeks we just talked about, you can't prevent them working just by closing. Okay, so if you decide, if they work every Monday and we come to a bank holiday Monday, you can't just close and say, you know, sorry John, sorry Mary, no work next Monday. You can't do that. You can't stop a self-employed person from working. If you want to close every week because you want to go on holiday, you can't close the business for them to go. If they want to work on Christmas Day and it's a normal working day, then then they can come in if they want to. It's up to you to facilitate that. Okay. Now, all of these things, it's just like patch testing or wearing gloves when you're shaving or anything like that. All of these things doesn't matter when there's nothing wrong. It's when you end up in a tribunal, you might look back and think, look, you know, Carl put that video out there, or he was on 100 forums and telling us what we should be doing. They don't matter until they go wrong. And these are the typical things. You know, what hours they can access the place doesn't matter until it goes wrong, but it does. So a recent case that I'm involved in means that they could have access to this particular property at any time that they want. Now, a use of a locum. So a locum is a replacement person. So if they're renting a piece of your land of you, that's what they're doing really, renting a chair, renting a room, then usually they will have the right to use a locum, a replacement person. So if they want to go on holiday for a couple of weeks, then they can go and they can send someone in instead to do their job so that they are still collecting the revenue. Now, the thing is, you've got no control over the person that they're sending in. So I know the salon owners, I know what you guys are like, I know you want to interview them, you want to do a trade test, you want to see what they're like, but you've got no rights to do that. if I want to send in someone to replace me to keep my income going in my space that I am leasing off you, then I can do that. And even in the leases, that is a condition, all the leases I've seen so far, that is a condition that is put in there. Now, the reason it's put in there is so that it's controlled. So normally, someone can't send in a locum, I think it's for maybe more than a month, or maybe more than 2 weeks, so that they don't end up replacing themselves. But ultimately, it's all the same. They can send someone else instead of themselves. And you need to make sure as well that you put the actual size of the area that you're giving them access to. I know I mentioned it earlier, 2x2, 3x3. But that's really important, because you don't want to accidentally give them access to the whole salon. They're not renting a whole salon off you. They're renting off a certain space for a chair, certain space for a table, certain size of a room. Okay, they are renting off a space. So you get to your lease. Now, there are 3 main options. The first one is rental only. Now, anyone who's messaging me, you will see, as a coach, if you need to go down the salon, if you need to go down the self-employed route, you will see I invariably say you really need to go for the rental only option. Now, the reason I recommend that is because we always get the rent in advance, normally a month. So that shows commitment by the person who's renting the space. But when you've got a business, and if you're trying to grow it with self-employed workers, which is absolutely a huge challenge, then at least you're able to plot and plan weeks and months ahead. You can always know, look, I'm charging £2,000 a month for this rental, so I know that in this calendar year I've got £24,000 as a guaranteed income, or at least as guaranteed as it is whilst they're still there. When we're working on a percentage or a commission basis, then of course on weeks that they have no money coming in, or they have very little money coming in, so do you. You have very little money coming in. Okay, so I usually stay away from the commission, and I also stay away from the percentage commission system, because it means that both of you at some stage have got to handle the money, and there's a lot more paperwork involved. It can get very messy. And the businesses, again, that I've dealt with in the last few years, or have contacted me rather, have been people who are having a disagreement over the commission basis. You can, of course, combine the both. And I think this is pretty common. People rent a chair or a space and then a little bit of commission. But because it can be complex, I normally try and keep you guys away from this. But I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm trying to explain to you today that doing things wrong could get you in the wrong position with HMRC. That's all I'm trying to explain to you. And at the end of that, I noticed as well the incentive. You know, if someone's on a chair rental or a space rental, and they pay £2,000 or £3,000 a month in advance every month, so you've got some security for the month. Trust me, the incentive for them to come in on Christmas, the incentive for them to not be off sick or take a day off Euro to do the hours is a lot better than when they're working on a commission basis, where they often get to their level of living. So they get to their living standard, and then they think, oh, look, I don't need to work the next couple of days, and then you're wondering why your salon is completely empty. Okay, so all the money that is generated by the renter, okay, the person who's self-employed in your shop, everything they take, every single penny, is theirs. It's not yours, it's all theirs. Even if the salon owner collects the money. Now, there's been a lot of debate on the forums, but HMRC over the last year have kind of changed the position quite a lot, and they are happy. I wouldn't say they were happy. They've agreed that salon owners can collect the money. However, that doesn't change the fact that it is still owned by the renter. Now, all the money that's collected, so if a salon renter, a barber, collects £500 in 1 week, even if the owner is actually getting their hands on it, taking it out of the till, that salon owner has to hand over at the end of the agreed period, whether it's a week or a month, that £500 over to the salon worker, the self-employed worker. Or, if it's agreed, the salon owner can send it into a designated account of the self-employed worker. Okay, so you can either just give them the cash, there's your £500, or use the £500 and it buzzes straight into your account. What you can't do as a salon owner is make deductions from it. So if they owe you money for rent, if they drop a set of clippers, or if they, I don't know, chuck a bucket of water on your PC, you cannot take deductions from it. It's not your money. It never was your money. It's never going to be your money. It's the owner's money. Like I said, if it was a shop next door, you wouldn't go around and take their money, okay? It's not your money. Right, now where there's a percentage split, okay, where the salon worker is getting a the salon owner is getting a percentage of the takings, then the salon worker, the self-employed person, has to inform the salon owner every week of how much they took if they are collecting the money. And then obviously the salon owner knows how much money the salon worker should be giving them. Now, to check this, there is a position that the salon worker, the self-employed person, has to provide or could provide a set of accredited accounts every year. So if you're going to go for a long-term relationship with a self-employed worker, they tell you every week, look, I earned £500, here's £250 for you, and then at the end of the year, to balance that up, they have to provide a set of official accounts to verify that. And obviously, if there's a gap, you guys have got to sort out the difference. Okay, now, I've never seen that done in a salon, but that's what should be done, and that's what HMRC are expecting. The reason they're expecting that is because what they don't want is the salon renters to be running businesses a bit, backhanded and underground. Okay, they want it all above board, and you want it above board as a salon owner because you want to see the maximum amount of money they're taking, so you get your maximum percentage. And so they're not going to be hiding the figures anyway, but the accounts should be meeting that. And if you get a salon owner investigation, you really want a set of those accounts of these people. You want to cover your backsides, guys. You want to make sure that your self-employed workers are supplying with that. So the renter must invoice the owner every week for their percentage. Okay, if the salon owner's taking the £500, they should send the £500 over. And then the salon owner should invoice the self-employed worker for their percentage. Okay, shouldn't be going the other way around. The salon worker should be collecting all the money. They should have all the money in their hand and then give the salon owner their percentage. Now, that's important in terms of accounting because that bit that's coming back to you, the salon owner, is the bit that you would declare for VAT. I've heard really recently, and I've been in chat with you about the whole figure from the self-employed worker being declared to your accountant as VAT, and there's no way that should be happening. Only money you receive as the commission payment should be declared towards your VAT. So if you're under £85,000, then you haven't got to worry about it. But if you're VAT registered or you're heading towards the VAT threshold, it's the bit that you are getting back as a salon owner that must be declared towards VAT. Okay? So, what's going wrong? I talked about it at the beginning. Salon owners think that they have self-employed workers and they are still their staff. I hate that word. They're not your staff, guys. You're going to drive me mad. Now, you think because these people are self-employed that you as a salon owner can get rid of them at any time. I've heard it all the time. I hear people on forums, I have it in my inbox all the time. This hairdresser, this barber, this beauty therapist has done a really bad job, Carl. What can I do? Or, Carl, I've actually terminated them. I know I can do it. And now I'm going to a tribunal. You can't just get rid of someone because they are self-employed. Now, they're not bound by employment law in the way that your employees are, but they still are bound by most employment laws. Human rights in some ways, but employment laws. Well, I'm going to cover them for you now. So it's the discrimination laws that you can't bend and you can't move. So you can't, for example, get rid of someone because they are pregnant, or you can't get rid of them because of a reason that the self-employed worker thinks is because they're pregnant. No, it's the interpretation of this. And there's someone on the forum at the moment dealing with this kind of issue absolutely live right this minute. And it's up for them if they want to share it with you. But pregnancy, race, gender, I know it's all common sense. You might think, yeah, Carl, look, you're telling us to suck eggs when it comes to this issue, but it happens. We see something go wrong, we wrap it up into this self-employed law, and we just get rid of them. You can't just get rid of them. They have rights, and they have a lease. Because remember, a few pages ago, we did a proper lease and contract. Now, don't think you'll circumnavigate that, get around it by not doing the lease, because I tell you now, if you don't do the lease agreement, you're even more likely to be on the side of employing them than on the self-employed side. The agreements are actually not telling you whether they're employed or self-employed. It's actually what you're doing every day that's deciding for HMRC if they're employed or self-employed. So they have some protections, not all the same, so I don't want to get into a legal bash with someone over this, but someone who's leasing a space of you have similar protection as someone who would be renting a business or a commercial property of you. You can't interfere with their business. You've got to let them have general satisfaction, general enjoyment of the area that they're in. You know, if I rented a shop to you, I couldn't be coming around telling you your cuts are not very good, or your standards are not very good, or your promotions are not very good, or you're not working enough hours. It's just something that I've got to accept. Okay, so when you have a problem with a self-employed worker, make sure they got an agreement, and make sure you're working inside that agreement. Now, that isn't usually a problem, because if you've got a proper agreement with a start and a finish time, and that's really important as well, you know, a one-year lease or something like that, then if there's a problem ongoing, you haven't got to renew the release, but you have to be careful on that as well. If you don't give them the right notices, they probably have the right to renewal. But this is where you probably need someone like the NHF or one of the other business support agencies to tell you where you need to go with your legal issues. So they can also be claiming for things like loss of earnings. If you just chuck someone out of your shop because they're self-employed and you think, all right, I've solved the problem because they don't operate very well, then you could end up in a tribunal for even things like loss of earnings for that area. Okay, so don't kind of get too mixed up. If you've got the lease, it'll be for a set period. They'll have a notice saying that it's not for renewal, but also you'll have a period, usually 3 months notice, that either the self-employed worker has to give you, or you have to give them if you're not happy with certain features of the lease. Now, that's not including the standard of their work necessarily. It could just be things like, you know, they don't have insurance, would be a reason why you could terminate their lease within that 3 months. Okay, in fact, you might have grounds to terminate them immediately, or they don't put up their signs, or they don't have good health and safety practice, which you are legally bound to enforce. Okay, so there are reasons that you can move them on very quickly, but it's not because of the standard of their work, or not because you don't agree with their pricing, or it's not because they don't work the hours that you want. Okay, you have to be really, really careful. Now, the biggest mistake we have is that we terminate them because they have terrible haircuts or terrible set of nails or whatever, and we just say, look, you don't work for me, and you out you go. And fortunately for salons, most self-employed workers accept that. They don't understand the laws at all, and they just go off and they pick up with another salon and get on with their lives. That's fine. But 4 times this year already, I've been in a situation with salons that, by the way, they've phone me after they've been in this situation. They're not my clients getting into the situation. They're self-employed workers, and then we get rid of them. Then they decide they're going to raise this as a tribunal issue because of, now this is the most important part, and this is the area that you're all going wrong. No, all of you, lots of you are going wrong. We think they're self-employed, and then we treat them like employed workers. So they're self-employed, and we control their prices. We tell them what days to come in. We give them commission payments. We tell them that they can't have a certain holiday. We tell them what they've got to wear. We tell them that they've got to clean the salon. We tell them how to do promotions. We send them out doing leaflets. You know, we use their Facebook page. So the trouble is, when you get to a tribunal, whilst the agreements are very, very important, it's actually what you've been doing. Now, if they get to the tribunal and you've been treating them like they're an employee, this is the killer, guys. This is it. You're then in a position where you're probably going to be penalized for unfair dismissal. Now, when we get to a situation, because they're unfairly dismissed as a worker, not as a self-employed person, so you're now in a bit of bother. Because that also means not only are you likely to get a penalty, but you also now likely have to back pay these guys things like holiday pay, pensions, and if they've been working with you for 5 years, you can end up back paying for the last 5 years of their holidays. There are cases, you just Google it, you will see there's cases in the hairdressing industry and outside the industry where people are having to back pay. Okay, so you might be getting away with it at the moment. I hope it goes well for you, but change your practice and get your practice legally and get it properly. So as I said, there's lots and lots and lots of things that can get backdated and people are getting fined. Now, don't listen to this video and then all go screaming off and start changing employees to self-employees or self-employees to employees, okay? Don't start switching them around just to try and get on the side of legal things. The legal situation is all about the way that you treat them. When you finish this video, go and get the agreements, make sure they're done, and then make sure that you treat them either like a self-employed worker, a rented chairperson, or you treat them like a proper, normal, standard employee. If you start switching employees to rented chairs, to lease people, you could have further problems with things like redundancy. Someone who you had as a worker who becomes self-employed because they don't work for you anymore may have things like redundancy payments. Okay, so what I would say is just however you are at the moment, just make sure you're doing it properly. If you feel you need to swap someone, then please get over one of the legal lines like the NHF and get clarification before you do it. I'm trying to help you guys to not be in trouble, not to get you further into bother. Okay. We talked about joining the NHF or a body like it, and we talked about having up-to-date agreements. I'm kind of just recapping here. Don't treat the renters like staff. Okay, they don't work for you. They work for themselves. It's so hard to get through in your mind. These people who are occupying your space in your shop don't work for you. They work for themselves. Don't think that you're smarter than the tribunal system. Don't think you're smarter than the HMRC. Don't try and have super clever contracts. They will jump all over them. They will absolutely shred them. It's all about control as much as anything else. If you've got people in your business, you are controlling, they're employed. It's that simple. I don't want to spend hours on you later on answering all your questions to argue a point. I don't really want to argue with you. I'm just sharing with you all my experience, and I'm sharing with you some of the conditions of legally binding contracts on the HMRC, and it's as simple as I'm explaining. When it comes to salon help, when it comes to meet pal Hinder, I really recommend that you use a rent-a-chair agreement. Sometimes I talk about doing a lease agreement for a room within a business, but very rarely would I recommend that you actually have a rent-a-chair agreement. And like I said, it's very difficult for me as a coach to help you if you've got an army of rental chair or disagreements. The reason is because, as I said at the beginning, it's a limited growth option for you. If you've got no control, of your business, how do you grow it? I have no idea. And that's why we have employees, and we really need to focus on developing the employees within the industry. And well-managed employees will really grow your business. You know, you're not saving a lot when it comes to holidays or sick pay or any of those things, really. When you think how much you can get out of a properly trained, committed employee, they're worth, 10 times as much in the long term as changing your rent-a-chair arrangement from time to time. Okay, so that's the end of the video. I hope it's been helpful for some of you. I'm Carl Hinder, obviously, Salon Help. Now what I do is I go into spas, hair salons, beauty therapists, barbershops, all that part of the industry, all over the UK, Ireland, and I help people develop their business and develop the salons. If you've got a salon with employees, and if you've got lots of questions, if you've got problems at the moment, please inbox me or put them on this video here, and this afternoon I will get back to you with answers. Don't stress over this, but please take it seriously, and let's not, abuse the chair rental system anymore. Cheers guys, thank you for your time, and catch you on the next video.